Hi. So it's been just over a year since I filmed the video with one of my chickens having the bound egg in the prolapse vent and me taking care of that in my kitchen. And I can't believe how many people left me comments. I mean, gave me like a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the video. I can't believe how many of you were engaged, and yeah, so thank you. No matter what your feedback was, if it was good or bad, thank you, I appreciate it. So I wrote down your most common questions, and I thought it would be respectful of you guys, my audience, to put together a response video, just to give you an update on, how everything happened. I'm out here by the chicken coop. It's pretty cold outside, but I figured this would be an appropriate setting to shoot a response video about one of my chickens. So anyway, I thought it would be good just to kind of give you an idea of what happened before I turned on the camera, and then to give you an idea of what happened after I turned off the camera, because really you only got, I mean, it was a long video. I can't believe how many of you watched all of it. But you really only got, 13, 14 minute window into what happened there. So just to walk you through the moments leading up to that, like where my mind was, what the situation was, what my resources were, what my experience was. So it was a cold winter Alaska morning. I mean, it was around 10 degrees. I came outside to check on the chickens first thing in the morning, and I saw that one of them wasn't really moving the same, and I took a closer look at her, and I could tell that her whole backside was bloody. So I was able to get her, brought her inside. I put her in a small cage so she couldn't move around as much because I didn't know what was going on. I jumped online. I started doing all the research that I could, and I found that there were a lot of people who blogged about it, and there were a lot of websites that gave a couple pictures, but when I tried to jump on YouTube, I really couldn't find like a start to finish. Like, how do I deal with this? I have this chicken with stuck egg and with a prolapsed vent, meaning her internal reproductive system that's supposed to be inside of her body has been pushed outside of her body, and the egg is still stuck. I wanted to watch somebody else go through that, and I wanted to see with my own eyes how somebody else fixed it, and I couldn't find anything like that. So I guess I'm jumping ahead of my cards a little bit here, but one of the questions that I've been asked a lot is, like, why did you film that? And honestly, that's part of it. It's just because that didn't exist already. I couldn't find it when I really needed it. So I wanted to put it out there so that anybody else who was in my situation for the first time could watch somebody else go through it and could see everything that I was seeing. I know it was graphic, but if you own chickens, it's a fact of life. Bound eggs, prolapse vents, there's some of the more common chicken medical issues you'll have to deal with. So I think it's important that that resource is out there so that other people know, like, they're not going through it alone, and this is how you would handle it. This is how somebody else has handled it. The second reason that I made that video was, honestly, at that point, I had already scheduled a vet appointment, but the vet couldn't get me in first thing in the morning, and I knew that something needed to happen with that chicken. I couldn't just leave it. I mean, I have chickens, number one for eggs, but really, I mean, they live in my yard. I kind of look at them as pets too, and I felt like it was my responsibility to take care of that chicken, and she was in some pain, and I didn't think that it would be humane to let her sit like that, for the next. And the vet couldn't get me in until the afternoon. One reason was it was a chicken, so it's not like they have in Anchorage anyway, there aren't usually like emergency room vet clinics with vets that specialize in birds. And the vet who I usually see for my dogs was out of town. And she normally sees birds also. So anyway, I wanted to take the video so that when I brought the chicken into the vet later, I could show the vet exactly what I did. And I wanted it to be a learning moment for me. I wanted a vet to look at exactly what I was looking at and to tell me, yes, you did the right thing based on your research, or no, you should have done this, this, and this instead. And I guess, spoiler alert, when I took the chicken to the vet actually did tell me that I did all the right things. And he told me that having, the prolapse vent and having bound eggs is actually really common in chickens. I didn't do anything wrong. It was a young chicken. That's just part of life, sometimes it happens. And at that point, so I did, pay to take the chicken to the vet. So I paid $65 just for, a veterinarian to look at my chicken. And for anyone who doesn't have chickens, you can buy a chicken for like $20. Not that for me, price was everything, but if you're somebody who's very price oriented and, thinking about like balancing, what is the cost of, just butchering this chicken and getting a new one. If you're more farmer's mindset, it wouldn't have made sense to take her to the vet. But anyway, I wanted it to be a learning experience for me, since I plan on having chickens for many, many more years. I wanted to know what the right thing to do was. So the vet told me that my options were, the vet could surgically remove the egg, and then he could push the prolapse back in the chicken, meaning all of the reproductive tract, like the internal tissue that came out, he could push all of that back in and then put together 2 stitches on either side of it, and they would be internal stitches. And he said that would help keep the prolapse in while the body healed. But the caveat is, if the chicken laid another egg before those stitches healed and naturally came out, then the next egg that came through would rip everything out and would kill her even faster. And also, it was a $600 to $800 quote for that surgery. And it was kind of a 50-50 surgery based on whether or not a chicken was going to lay an egg. So I decided to take her home, and I decided to watch her, and I restricted her light. I changed her diet. Both of those are known procedures or protocols. If you want your chickens to stop laying eggs or not lay as many eggs, you restrict their light, and you change their foods so they're not getting as much protein, not getting as much calcium. I did both those things. Yeah, I was hand feeding her. I was giving her baths every day. I was keeping her in our garage so that she wouldn't just freeze again while she was healing. And at the end of the week, when I went to check on her that morning, she had another egg, and it was hanging out, and it was stuck and prolapsed exactly the same way that it had before. So at that point, sometimes if you remove a bound egg and you can fix that prolapse, the chicken will be fine. And other times it's just going to be a lifelong thing. And the most humane thing to do is just to put them down. So that's what I ended up doing. Anyway, so let's start digging into the questions. So the first, the most common question you guys asked me was, did the chicken survive? And the answer is no, she didn't. She survived that first, the initial stuck egg, and she survived another, it was 4 or 5 days after that. And then she tried to lay another egg that got stuck the same way, and I put her down. because I think that was the most humane thing to do. The second question, why didn't you just break the egg? Which is not a bad question, but I mean, you'd think logically, if there's something that's breakable inside of something and it's stuck, why not just break it and get it out that way? But you have to think how sharp eggshells are. They're really, I mean, they're razor sharp, and it was inside of her reproductive system. So if I had crushed that egg, and then if she had gotten cut, that would have been a lot of internal bleeding, and she would have probably died pretty fast. If I was a surgeon and I was really comfortable doing that, then I maybe would have tried it. And depending on how stuck it was, you know, if this happened to me again, the exact same circumstance, maybe I would try it. But honestly, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think it's a 50-50 again, you know, because you have to think that you're dealing with not just the stuck egg, but all of the tissue that's around it is living, and it's tissue that's meant to be internal, you know, so you don't really want to put enough pressure on it to smash an egg in the first place. And then once you have your smashed egg, when you're pulling the pieces out, what are the chances that you're going to cut her in the process? So I didn't think that was a risk worth taking, and it was something that I wasn't comfortable with. Maybe if I had a medical background, I would have tried it. And I think taking her to a vet probably wouldn't have been worth the cost if I had to incorporate like any surgery into it. Just considering, you know, what the baseline exam fee was, I don't think I would justify that cost for a chicken, just to be honest. But I mean, everybody views chickens differently. You know, it's this thing where some people have chickens and their chickens are their pet. You know, like they're willing to spend any amount of money on them because that chicken is their pet. And then other people have more of like the farm mentality. Well, it's a chicken. You know, think about the last time in your life you had chicken in a meal, you know? So it's different when you're watching this happen to a live chicken, but you also have to keep in mind that chickens are, you know, they're part of our food system. Not to say that that life wasn't any less important, but yeah, just, it all depends on how you view a chicken and what it's worth. Okay, so this one kind of made me giggle. Another thing that a lot of you asked me was, why didn't you take her to a vet? Is it because you live in Alaska? So I actually live in Anchorage, and Anchorage is a city of about 300,000 people. So we definitely have vets in Anchorage, but that's it's a valid concern because of a lot of Alaska is so rural, they don't have vets. So depending on where you live, if you live in one of the bigger cities, then you're gonna have access to a vet. But if you live in one of the communities that are just really, really small, not even quite a city, but you know, more of a, I guess, a village, then you probably wouldn't have access to a vet. So, let's see. The next question was, what causes a chicken to become egg-bound and have that prolapse vent? Well, in the case of my chicken, she was just young. She was just born that way. There's nothing that I did. There's nothing in her environment that made her that way. It was just the way that she was born. Another question that a lot of you asked that wasn't even on my mind at the time was, where are your gloves? Which is not a bad question. I was just so, I was in the heat of the moment, and I was just, you know, so into taking care of this animal. I was really not thinking about my own protection. I was just thinking, gotta get in there, gotta do it. So yeah, maybe that's something that'll like stick in my subconscious for if this happens again, was gloves. But it was fine. Hands are washable. Okay, and then the last question was, why did you film this and put it on the internet? Which I kind of touched on already, but more than anything, I want this to be a resource so that chicken owners who haven't seen this before are able to see it with their own eyes. And even though it's graphic and it's bloody and it's not pleasant, egg-bound chickens happen, prolapse vents happen, and especially when it comes to chicken keeping, because chickens are one of those animals where some people will take them to the vet, but most people are just going to try at-home care, just because we don't put the same value on a chicken's life as we do a dog or a cat. I know it's going to upset a lot of people just that I said that, but it's true. Yeah, so I want it to be a resource for somebody else to be able to look at, especially when they're in a time of panic. And I think that education is really important. And I was so surprised that I couldn't find anything like that on the internet, but I guess it makes sense. I mean, most people in a time of panic like that don't think to pull out a camera. And yeah, for me, it was partially, I felt like I needed to have something to show the vet when I brought the chicken to the vet later. And then it was partially, you know, I wanted to contribute something to the internet so that other people in my same situation had a better idea of what to do and what they were doing right and what they were doing wrong. Because I did, when she was soaking in that warm water in my kitchen sink, I was doing frantic internet research, trying to figure out what the right things to do were after that. And I found a lot of text, I found a lot of words, I found some pictures, but when you're in a stressful situation like that, you want to watch somebody else do it. So yeah, that's my update video. That's my response. Thank you all so much for watching the first video, for watching this video, for leaving me all of your feedback. If you just are jumping into this video and you haven't seen the first one, I'll put a link to it in the comments so you can watch it if you're interested. But yeah, thank you so much for your support and for your feedback. Thanks, guys.